You know, if there's one person that I respect that who does not come on this platform enough is former CIA operative Sam Faddis and his A&D magazine. He has clarity, he has facts, he has the experience, the integrity, the honor. He has no agenda. He doesn't care whether it's left or right. And I wanted to have Sam on today in the wake of Mamdani winning New York City, because many would say London, where it has a Muslim mayor, and I said it, a Muslim mayor, I mean, extremists, I mean, really very detrimental to everything that London and the UK represents, is not happening in New York with Zohran Mamdani. Those that know him best say that he's a liar, he's manipulative, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Don't take my word for it. Here we speak truth to power. But I invited Sam Faddis, and I read a fascinating piece by Sam in his A&D magazine, where he has always been an avid member of the Democratic Socialist Organization. And these are his words, not the words of anybody else, that Sam Faddis decided to explore, to really tell you who Zohran Mamdani really is. Welcome to the broadcast, Sam, and fill in the blanks.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, as always. Yeah, look, when we wrote the piece recently, what we thought was, as I think you've alluded to, people start talking about Mamdani and they take sides and start engaging in all this business about twisting and turning and spinning stuff. So we thought, okay, look, let's just talk about what Mamdani is, what he says, and what his party stands for, and let's rest on their own words, so nobody can claim that we're twisting things. And when you look at that, and particularly, look at this socialism, in quotes, that he espouses, it's pretty terrifying. And I say socialism in quotes because I think they use this word socialism because it somehow sounds kinder and gentler than what it really is, which is communism. It is a Marxist, Leninist ideology, and it stands for completely destroying the existing political, economic, and social order. And that's not exaggeration. The terminology they use couldn't be any clearer. The entire construct of the United States of America is an abomination. They say it's not a country, it's a prison. It is an oppressive, brutal, evil regime, in their words. And they, being the Democratic Socialists of America, which is Mamdani's party, is to which he formally belongs. And they say very clearly they intend to destroy the entire thing. I would add, including literally abolishing the family. And again, I would just stress, that's not Sam's spin. I didn't come up with that characterization. They use that language. They want to destroy the family. They want to destroy every element of the existing structure. And look, I'm one of the first guys to say we got a lot of ground to cover before this country is anything close to perfect. We got all kinds of work to do. But I don't think the vast majority of Americans are on board with burning the place to the ground. And that is expressly what he and his folks stand for.
Explain to our listeners how Mamdani plans on transforming New York. And listen, it was no coincidence that during the last 24 hours of his campaign, his only plea was to the Muslims. He said, look, I'm one of you. You elect me, everything you ever wanted would happen through me. I'm one of you, and I'm proud of my Muslim roots. This is what he said. He was very proud of it. But what Americans heard in New York is not what Madani was expressing, the message he was sending to his Muslim brotherhood.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. And look, it's not lost on me that what he's really talking about is a particular strain of Islam, right? I mean, I've lived a lot of my life abroad and worked alongside of Muslims fighting against jihadists and terrorists, and frankly, more of them died than of us in that fight on our side. He's talking to Muslim extremists and jihadists. I mean, he's got supporters jumping up and down on video, screaming in delight about what they describe, again, their words, the Islamic Caliphate of New York. I think Americans are used to the idea that politicians overpromise things. That's not a shocker, right? They tell you they're going to fix all your problems, and then they get in office and, okay, and they don't come through. What I don't think Americans understand about somebody like this is he is lying outright, or has been lying outright, about who he is and his intentions. This kinder, gentler, kind of cool, younger, hip sort of guy. I mean, look at the history of revolutions like this, and what you see is, you know, the veil drops, no pun intended here. I mean, the true face comes out. All of a sudden, you realize, okay, this guy, that's not what he's about at all. I think you got a little taste of that in that acceptance speech that he gave after he won. You
Scary,
know, even
actually.
yeah, even some of the folks like commentators on CNN and elsewhere who are, you know, liberals and probably
Including Van Jones.
Precisely. That's exactly who I'm thinking of. Van Jones, who I think is a man of intellect and integrity. I mean, we don't politically align.
He said he missed an opportunity. What is he doing is what he said.
Well, but you know, to me, what that says is that Van did not understand up until that moment who the heck he was actually looking at and what this guy was really about. I mean, you know, the history, Mamdani is this strange combination, right? Because he's both an Islamic extremist and a communist.
But I need you, I need to make sure that for our audience today, I need you to explain to them how he wants to transform New York and into what?
Well, he's going to transform it in both Islamic and communist ways. So I think you are going to discover that this ideology, both communist and Muslim, he begins to dictate that. I mean, the history of communist takeovers is you tell the people whatever the heck you got to say to them until such time as you are in power. And then once you are in power, all bets are off. I mean, let's go back to the root of this thing. In 1917, in Russia, the Tsar gets overthrown. There's a democratic assembly that takes place. That was actually the government that replaced the Tsar. What the heck happened to that? There was a coup.
But but Sam, I want to focus this a little more. Mamdani wants to give everyone free food, free groceries, free rent, empty the jails. Law enforcement is the enemy, and they need to be expunged, Sam.
Yes, that's exactly. Look, he's going to gut the police force. He's already said he's disbanding what amounts to New York City's SWAT element. He's going to pull their teeth and prevent them from doing their jobs. He's going to be, I mean, the disaster will be amplified by the fact that as he does that, the cops are going to walk. I mean, Houston is already running ads saying, when you're sick of New York City, come work for us in our police force. He is going to gut the budget from services and anything that has to do with public safety and feed him into this. He's also going to embolden extremists. I mean, he already has done that. You are going to have jihadist groups, communist groups actively doing things. What happens when people start basically squatting in buildings, occupying buildings, and they won't pay rent anymore? And announce that because this is a guy who expressly says we need to seize the means of production. Again, his words, not mine. So you are not talking about, I think a lot of people are just thinking, okay, this guy's just going to be kind of a clown and a
This guy's
goofball and
very
do a bunch of
intelligent.
stupid
Do
stuff.
not estimate his intellect and his
No, exactly.
sophistication.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly. Look, that's not what you're looking at. You are not looking at a guy. Again, look at the face you saw instantaneously in his acceptance speech. All of a sudden, man, the smile was gone. We weren't the cool guy smiling and looking hip anymore. We were angry and emboldened, and he starts calling out the President of the United States directly. He has already said that he presumes to tell ICE and federal law enforcement what they can do in New York City. Like that he will direct, presumably, the people that work for him for New York City to, if necessary, arrest federal law enforcement officials.
Arrest them.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, this is not just kind of the goofy guy that has overpromised stuff. The man and the people behind him have known what they are doing for a very long time and what it took to get New York to vote.
Let's keep this in mind. If Cuomo, Silva, and Eric Adams all combined their votes together, he still would have won by a landslide. Young voters voted in an unprecedented way, more than they have in the last 3 decades. This guy has a mandate, he has a landslide, and in his mind, they have mandated him to do exactly what they know and who he is without the mask on, because the mask was finally taken off at his acceptance speech. And what he said about Trump and other things, do not take him lightly. This is just the surface of the iceberg. Now, when we come back, Sam said something that's very important. What happens when voters become angry? They become desperate. They become mad. And what they do, they vote the party that's currently in power out of power. And this is exactly what happened with Trump, and even with President Trump, what he's promised to the voters, because of the pocketbook issues, have not been delivered. And the things that Mamdani promised about free food, free rent, and all these things is impossible. He knowingly lied to them, and they fell for the okie doke. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break with our guest, Sam Faddis. Yes, Sam, the voters are angry and in desperation. This is what we have. And let's not forget, Sam, that Mamdani said, globalize the intifada. Globalize it, Sam. You realize what he's saying?
Yeah, what he's saying is that he's making common cause with and supporting Hamas, amongst other things. So you're talking about guys who machine gun kids at a music festival, who torture people to death, lock people in cages until they starve to death. You're talking about mass murderers and terrorists, and this guy made complete common cause with them. And again, it's not a throwaway phrase, Armstrong. This guy Mamdani founded a chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine when he was in college. Okay, Students for Justice in Palestine is the political wing of Hamas in the United States. He didn't go to a rally one time, say some stupid crap that he wasn't thinking about. I mean, this guy has lived this, and he means this. And the mind-boggling thing is, this is now the guy who's the mayor of New York City, ground zero for 9/11, who makes common cause with terrorists and supports terrorism, is now the mayor of that city.
Here's what I don't understand. This is like American blacks supporting the Ku Klux Klan. And why am I making this analogy? It's the same. Let me tell you why I make this analogy. 43% of Jews, and there's no doubt in my mind, Mamdani hates Israel and Jews. Oh yeah, there's no question. He doesn't try to hide it. But 43% of Jews in New York City voted for him, and behind the scenes, many financed him. It reminds me of the days of the Holocaust when Jews became their own enemies, thinking that Hitler could become their ally, they could control him, they could finance him. What did he do? Cook them in an oven. We're seeing a repeat of history all over again, Sam.
Yeah, and look, this whole thing, and we're not just talking about Mamdani, because at this point, unfortunately, we have a lot of other folks appearing in this country with the same kind, not just rhetoric, cut from the same cloth. This is very real, and it is revolutionary.
Well, you're speaking of Nick Fuentes and the fact that Tucker Carlson gave him a platform. It's all the same. You're right on all sides.
Yeah, and you know, as Americans, I think we are typically we have a hard time wrapping our heads around this. Like, we'll get angry and yell at each other and have an election, but the idea that we're talking about people who, the violence, the anger, the revolutionary character, and I keep using that word revolutionary, but I don't mean that just as an adjective. I mean truly revolutionary character, what you're looking at. I think most people are still having a really, really hard time wrapping their heads around that folks are seriously not just espousing this, but now achieving success in, and the agenda is to, again, destroy completely the existing political, economic, and social order. And I keep adding social order because, you know, Mamdani is one of the guys who wants to destroy the family. So this is an immediate threat. Obviously, it is not a fringe thing.
No, it's a watershed
And I don't
moment.
feel like we're confronting it at all.
It's a watershed moment in our history is what it is.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately, on the other side of this, on the conservative side, if you will, to use shorthand, I think we got way too many people who are still way too shy about just calling it out for what it is and having a conversation in these terms. They keep wanting to pull their punches. Even the opponents of Mamdani in New York City in the mayoral race, I don't think ever had the courage to just stand up and say, this is what this guy represents and what he means to do, right? It was, okay, we're talking about crime in the subway. No, Sliwa, we're talking about a lot more than crime in the subway here. That's not what's happening.
So let me help us here, because we saw this with our President Donald Trump. We're seeing this now with Zoran Mamdani. What happens when voters become angry, disenchanted, lied to, manipulated, and their lives don't improve, what they're willing to do in desperation.
Yeah, I agree. And we have seen that, and that is the moment. And as you alluded to earlier, really MAGA is born, the MAGA movement was born out of the fact that a very large portion of the American population is angry. They don't feel like the American dream exists anymore. If you're young, you're never going to buy a house. If you're old, you're never going to retire. We could go on with this list, but the point is, they are angry. The system isn't working. It is not cutting it for them. This is not a matter of intellectual debate. This is as real as it gets. And that's what has really propelled Trump, in my opinion, to the White House. Now, if he can't deliver and MAGA can't deliver and folks aren't going to respond from that side, if they're going to default to the typical establishment answers to this, well, then then these are the guys who are going to take power. The guys who are providing the response to that anger from a completely different end of the political spectrum. The communists, the radical Islamists, they're the ones who are going to seize power. And I think we're at a critical moment, because I'm not sure right now that most Americans see that this administration is delivering that radical change, fixing things.
And Sam, what many people don't realize, I don't care what side of the aisle that you're on, you love this country and you don't want to see New York City turn into a hotspot for jihadists, hotspot for ISIS, and something that we're accustomed to seeing across the waters in the Middle East, Hamas right up in New York City, brought to you by Mayor Zoran Mandani, and that is very possible. But I think that the tragedy of all this, Sam, is that the younger generation, they feel that America has left them behind. They don't think they have the same future of their parents and grandparents. They don't feel like they can make it on their own. This thing about free stuff and socialism soothes them, moves them, because they believe that's what they need to survive. And what they're being exploited in terms of their naivety. And what they don't realize, the grand prize for ISIS, for Iran, and everybody else is not Israel, not what you say, it's America. They would like to, if they can conquer America as a prize, as what they've done in London, they try to do in Paris, what they try to do throughout Europe, until they put a halt to this immigration, this mass immigration. They want America. And they've just found a foothold into the most celebrated, the largest city in the world, and the financial capital of the world. They found the foothold. And all it takes is one to open up the gates for others to come.
Yes, sir. It is not, and this is not just an issue for New York City, it's the whole country. And it is a very critical moment. And this is, again, not just about a guy who doesn't know what the heck he's doing. This is a lot more sinister than that.
Because he's a puppet. He's being financed by someone. We have no idea who that is, though. He's just a figurehead for a larger theory and a larger agenda about conquering America, not by military might, because they can't defeat us that way. This is the only way they can defeat us, by poisoning and infiltrating our political system and our many institutions. And they've already there in the educational system. Because you see what we saw at Harvard, what they're doing in terms of the foreign students. Now they found another foothold, and it's the mayor of New York City.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely, yes, you're 100% right. I mean, look, there is an ongoing revolution in the United States, which at this point seems to have this dual Marxist and in some cases Islamic character. But make no mistake, the goal here is to destroy the country as you know it. And I know I've said that about 3 times, but I still feel like people don't get it. This is a guy who, and the people who support him, who hate everything about the United States of America. They don't want to reform it. They don't want to make it better. They don't want to fix it. They want to burn it to the ground and replace it with something you won't recognize if you survive the process. That's not exaggeration. That is absolutely real. And we need, I mean, to start with, we need to say that out loud and call it out and speak in those terms and stop feeling like we can't say that.
I must say this to you as we say goodbye and thank you to Sam Faddis. I think the only thing that gives people any kind of hope that we could slow it down, halt it, disrupt it, is that no matter what you think about Donald Trump, and there's a reason why Zoran Mandani attacked him in his acceptance speech, because that is his only threat. And let me tell you, he has no idea what a threat Donald Trump is to his agenda.
Amen. Yes, sir. Well, he knows that that the fight is between the Trump and the movement he represents and what Mamdani and his people represent. He understands that. He didn't call out the Republican Party. He didn't call out the establishment Republicans.
No.
He knew exactly who he was talking to, the leader of the America First movement. He understands.
His biggest threat.
The only guy. Yes.
Formidable. And listen, we need not say no more. Sam, how can they subscribe to A&D Magazine?
Go to AND Magazine at Substack, andmagazine.substack.com.
It is always a pleasure having you on our broadcast.